Hey friends, welcome back, or welcome to those who are new here. I know this isn't my first episode, but my husband came up with a really great name for this channel, and it is now called Gosh Yarn It. So we're just gonna call this my first episode, okay? So welcome to the first episode of Gosh Yarn It, where we talk about all things knitting and fiber related. My name is Kelly, and I am a new knitwear designer, and I'm so happy you're here. Let's talk about yarn. Also, this is my dog, Waylon, and that is actually how he sleeps. So don't mind him. Hopefully my kids do not come out. They're currently watching Wild Kratts and are very happy. Okay, so today I'm doing something a little bit different. Obviously, we're in Gosh Yarn It land now. But also, I wanted to talk about the top 10 US yarn companies that you need to know, plus a little bonus. I thought... So not too long ago, Brooklyn Tweed said they were closing their doors when it comes to yarn. And I remember hearing, maybe it could have been a year ago, I don't know. But it feels like it wasn't too long ago. And I remember hearing some people talk about in the knitting podcast world that US yarn manufacturing was like dead. Like that was it. And I remember being like, no, it's beautiful and coming back and we need to support it. And so anyway, I just wanted to make a little video that highlighted some amazing US yarn makers and shared them with you. I would also really love if you would add to this list. So throw some amazing yarn companies in the comments below, and let's just like get an awesome list going of amazing people that we can support making yarn here. I know there are amazing people that make yarn everywhere. This is not against yarn made in other places. That is simply celebrating the yarn that is made here. I will be focusing mostly on companies that provide sheep to skein US produced yarn. So that means they're grown here, they're scoured here, they're dyed here, they're spun here, they're sold here. Well, I guess they could be sold elsewhere, but I also will be focusing mainly on non-superwash yarns unless I specify specifically. So if I don't specify whether they're superwash or not, you can assume that they are non-superwash yarns. Cool? All right. Also, if you like this content or like just chatting about yarn, knitting, want to see some new knit designs, like and subscribe so that YouTube knows that you like it and that you want to hang out with me more. It also really helps me be found by other people, and we can get a good party going here, and we can just get a ton of people talking about amazing US yarn. So please do that. Okay, so I'm gonna split this up into 3 categories, okay? So names you might know, names you might not know, and we've got that little bonus shout out. One person in the bonus shout out. I want to caveat this by saying this is by no means an exhaustive list. Like at all, not even a little bit. I actually would love, because I had so much fun making, like researching this for this video, I think it might be fun to highlight some yarn makers in different fiber sheds, or maybe even down to like different states. But I think that I would only do that if people are interested in it. So if that is something that you would be interested in, let me know. But for now, let's get going. So there are 5 names that you might know. The first one is Harrisville Designs in Harrisville, New Hampshire. Harrisville Designs is one of those just pillars of our yarn community here in the US. They have been doing it the longest. They've been around since 1794, but they're in their current state since 1971. They're still in the same building. They've been in that same location for that whole time. They've just changed hands a few times, almost went out of business. They're thriving now. This is definitely a name you should know because a lot of yarns that you might like have been made and are made by these people. So Brooklyn Tweed, Harrisville made them. Harrisville spun them. So they might not have dyed all of their stuff, but they did spin them, spin that yarn. And so if you like Brooklyn Tweed, you'll like the yarn that comes out of Harrisville Designs. This is the only one that I talk about that not all of their yarn is US sourced. However, they are such a pillar in our community, and we definitely need to be supporting them and keeping them in business. And they do have yarn lines that are sheep to skein in the US. They are a woolen mill. So if you do not know, I don't know if you heard that, but there are two main ways to produce a yarn. There is woolen spun and there is worsted spun, not to be confused with worsted weight. Woolen spun, this is basically, from my understanding, basically how you straighten the fibers. So I don't want to get too far into detail because I know that someone will correct me, but basically, woolen spun keeps fiber kind of jumbled when it's combed out, but it doesn't get those fibers all like going the same direction. They kind of get jumbled, and that's on purpose. And they do that because it creates a very airy, light yarn. It also creates space where the heat from your body can enter into that little like airy space within the yarn, and it helps keep you warmer. Okay, so this is a very warm yarn. It's a very lightweight type of yarn. Depending on exactly how it's twisted and the type of fiber that's used, it's not always the strongest, but that doesn't mean it can't be strong. It often can be. But compared to a worsted spun yarn, where they get all those fibers going the same direction, that is a heavier yarn. The fiber is taking up more of the space instead of allowing for air to be in pockets in there. But since all the fiber is going in the same direction, it is a stronger yarn. It's hard to break. Typically, you can see it within a yarn. Again, fiber, twist, this is all going to play into it. But I feel like I keep hearing my kids. But woolen spun tends to have a very muddy look to it. If you can't like perfectly pick out the plies, or it's a little harder, that tends to be woolen spun. Worsted spun, you can see the plies very clearly. It's very neat looking. They both are great for different uses, different preferences. Woolen spun can often be a little bit more textury. You're gonna feel it a little bit more because sometimes the fibers can point out instead of being smoothed down. So it's just really a matter of preference for project, a matter of preference for person, whatever. Anyway, that was a little side journey, but back to the main point. Harrisville is a woolen spun mill. Typically, mills will either be woolen spun or worsted spun. Yeah, so again, not all of their yarn is US grown, but it is all spun at their mill. and let me highlight some popular yarns for you. I believe Harrisville, most of their yarns are all 2-ply, so I'm gonna assume that the ones I'm listing out to you are all 2-ply yarns. So we've got Highland. Highland is a worsted weight yarn. Harrisville has a ton of colors in these first two. They have a ton of beautiful colors to choose from. So yeah, Highland is worsted weight. It is what I knit my framed sweater in. Framed. And yeah, it's wonderful. The next is Shetland, which is going to be very similar to Highland, except that it is a fingering weight yarn. Again, lots of colors, wonderful yarn. They also have what they have called nightshades and then daylight. So these are two different yarns, but nightshades, so these specifically are US grown wool. They also have other lines called sheer that are US grown wool as well, that are beautiful. I think they tend to be more farm specific or area specific, maybe breed specific. But yeah, nightshades and daylight, these are kind of sister yarns. Nightshades uses darker wool and adds in some pops of color, and daylight uses lighter wool and adds pops of colors in. So you're not going to get like saturated color like this, but they're super fun. Okay, so that's Harrisville Designs. Again, I'll probably, if you've probably used Harrisville Designs yarns or something, a yarn that has been made at Harrisville Designs without knowing it. They are an important part of our community. A very big, small mill, a very big mill, but you know, within the handmaking community. Okay, number 2, Green Mountain Spinnery in Putney, Vermont. Again, another woolen mill. Green Mountain Spinnery, I've been obsessed with them for a long time. They are, I just feel like, you know, like when you find like an older woman or an older couple that you're just like, oh my gosh, they're so cool. Like they just do cool things and they have a cool philosophy in life. That's like the personification of Green Mountain Spinnery. I just think they're so cool. They were founded in 1981 by a gathering of local artisans and educators, recalling the phrase, think globally and act locally. They have, they always use North American grown wool. So that is what they say specifically. All I've seen is US grown wool, but they say specifically North American grown wool. So maybe some Canadian yarn wool is thrown in there, but great, wonderful. And they have some organic yarns too, which is super cool. They use no chemicals or no petroleum-based cleaners when they scour. So scouring is when you clean the yarn and get the chaff out. Typically, if you get a very clean yarn without any chaff or vegetable matter in it, chemicals have been used to dissolve it. And their priority is to create yarn in a way that is supportive of the community and supportive of the environment. And so you do not use petroleum-based anything for the oil in their machines or for cleaning the yarn. So you're gonna find some vegetable matter in it, and you know what? That just brings you closer to the source, right? It's not intense by any means. They typically tell you where the fiber is grown in each of their yarns. So they have a couple main yarn lines that use a blend of different sheep breeds to create a fiber that they can produce consistently and is just a very quality yarn. But for the most part, they usually tell you where everything comes from. So, popular yarns. Lana. Lana is a 2-ply fingering weight, yarn. And again, this is a woolen mill. So all of their yarn is gonna be woolen spun. I feel like I read somewhere once that they were a semi woolen spun mill, but don't quote me on that. They're definitely not fully worsted spun. So, Lana. I use Lana for my flyaway sweater. I'll put a little right here. Such a great yarn. I say when I've used multiple of their yarns, and all of their yarns feel like butter. It just feels like butter to knit with. They're excellent yarns. They stand up so well. I use my sweaters constantly and my knitwear constantly, and Green Mountain Spinnery always just holds up. Another one that they have produced is called Cotton Comfort. This one's really cool. It's 2-ply DK weight yarn that is 80-20, so 80% wool, 20% cotton, and the cotton is grown organically in Texas. Love it. Another one that is really fun that I knit my Sophie scarf in is Alpaca Elegance. It's a 2-ply DK, and it's 50% alpaca, 50% wool, which I think is just such a wonderful blend if you're worried about alpaca being too slinky or growing too much afterwards. It's a substantial amount of wool tied in there with the alpaca that like gives it a little bit more bounce, a little bit more structure. And then finally, Music. Music is a 2-ply DK, so think very similar to Lana, just in DK weight. And I would say Lana, they label it as a fingering weight. I think it definitely could go that direction. It could also be a sport weight. Green Mountain Spinnery is one of my all-time faves. I love them so much. Okay, number 3 of names you might know. Jill Draper makes things in Kingston, New York. I believe she's based in Kingston, New York. So Jill Draper is not a mill. So the first 2 that I've talked about, they're mills. Jill Draper is not a mill. She sources yarn directly from farmers and has it spun. I believe Harrisville does it. And most, if not all of her yarn are woolen spun yarns. I believe she started around 2008, so she's been in it for a minute. And all of her yarns, she's focused on sheep to skein in the US. I also think that a lot of her yarns are breed specific yarns. I have used her yarn for, I believe it was the first one I'm going to list. So her popular yarns, one is Kingston. It's a 3-ply DK weight yarn made from Targhee wool from upstate New York. I believe this is the yarn I used to make my kids their, what's that sweater from Andrea Mowry? Something Bean, Lola Bean sweater, because she worked with the yarn dyer Lola Bean. Anyway, it's a heart sweater, and it's a circular yoke heart sweater. And I mean, that stood up, that yarn stood up, it stood up. My kids wore those sweaters a ton, and that yarn really stood up. So nothing but good things to say about that. Another one of her yarns is called Mahunk. I think I'm saying it correctly. This is a 2-ply sport weight made from 100% California lamb's wool. So that's fun. And then Wyndham is a 4-ply worsted weight from US grown merino. All right, number 4, Spincycle. Spincycle, based in Bellingham, Washington. Spincycle started out with Kate Burge and Rachel Price as a hand spinnery in 2004, but has now grown into its own mill and dye house. Spincycle is a pretty popular. It's known for its color changing yarn, which they create by dyeing the fiber first and then spinning it. I believe all their yarns are worsted spun. All of their yarns are sheep to skein in the US, but most of their yarns are superwash. I do believe they have a couple yarns that mix superwash and non-superwash together, which is very interesting. And I would love to know why they do that. I mean, obviously they have a reason, but I would love to know why they do that. But most of their yarn is superwash, but it's all made here in the US. And they will tell you exactly where it's sourced, spun, and dyed, which is great. Most of it's done I think they get it scoured somewhere else because they don't have the facility to scour. But I think most of it's done at their facility in Bellingham. Popular yarns. Dyed in the wool. It's a 2-ply sport weight. And my most recent pattern, which is not released yet, but is in testing, use this for the color changing portion of this. I hope you can see it. And I really, I'll talk about this later, but I designed this t-shirt for color changing yarn. I also used their dyed in the wool to make a cowl for my mom. And I mean, it's a top-notch yarn. It doesn't feel like you're knitting with superwash. That kind of squeaky feeling or fake kind of feeling to it. It doesn't have that at all. So I think they have their own kind of way of doing superwash. Another yarn that that is popular is Dream State. It's a 3-ply worsted weight. And then there is also Metamorphic, which is a 2-ply DK. And this one's really cool because they use 50% merino, 50% recycled wool from waste yarn at their mill. So their goal was to have very minimal or no waste in their milling process, which can be very hard. Waste is just a part of it. So they take the waste fiber that is pulled off when it's carded and spun, and it goes into Metamorphic, which is just super cool. So that's super fun. Obviously, they have a lot more yarn. They've worked with multiple people like Farmers Daughter Fibers to create yarn in partnership with other people. They're super cool. But I can't list all of them here. All right, last one, number 5 for names you might know is North Bay Fiber in Peconing. I don't know if I said that right, Michigan. So North Bay Fiber was started by Jill, the designer behind Knitterella, in 2021. So North Bay Fiber is pretty new, but they've been making waves. And again, this is not a mill. So Spincycle is a mill. North Bay Fiber is not currently a mill, but she does get custom milled yarn and she hand dyes them, and she's very focused on breed specific yarn. All sheep to skein in the United States. And she will tell you exactly where it's sourced, spun, and dyed. Jill creates gorgeous colors. North Bay Fiber has an amazing color lineup for most of their yarns. Some popular yarns are Elemental Fingering. It's a 2-ply fingering worsted spun yarn made from Cormo wool. And if you were wondering what the green is in this, it is Elemental Fingering. So that's for my balsam root pattern, which will be coming out in June. And then also, she has a lot of wonderful yarn lines, but another one that she has is called Bay Blend. I think she just changed the name of this, but it's currently called Bay Blend. And this is a 2-ply DK woolen spun, 70% Tarhi polypal, and 30% alpaca. So that's really fun. Again, this is another alpaca mix where you get the strength and warmth of alpaca, because alpaca tends to be a longer staple length. And alpaca tends to be warmer than wool, but you get the spring and the bounce back qualities of wool, which love it. Okay, now let's get into 5 names that might be new to you. Number 6 is Junction Fiber in White River Junction, Vermont. This is a mill that was started in 2021 by Amanda and Peg, 2 friends who are absolutely adorable together on their millcast. So they have their own YouTube channel, and usually I think it's updated every week or every 2 weeks. And Amanda is currently on maternity leave, and so Peg is holding it down, but typically they're on there together. And I think Peg just recently had an Olympian who knitted, who loves to knit, on their podcast, and because he's from Vermont. Anyway, it's a super cute mill cast. They kind of let you in on the behind the scenes of what goes on in their mill if you're interested in that. And they just kind of chat. They're adorable. So they call themselves a semi-worsted mill. So I think they take another step towards getting the fibers to lay flat, but there's still some jumble. So maybe kind of best of both worlds. They hand dyed their yarn in-house. So their goal in setting this up was to support U.S. wool growers, and they're all sheep to skein in the U.S. A lot of times they get hyper local wool, and they do a lot of one-offs. They do a lot of fun stuff. They have like a lot of pop culture topical yarn names and color references and stuff like that. It's very fun, but they have two main yarns. So they have making tracks. Think spincycle. So they're non superwash. But this is a color changing yarn that has been vat dyed. So that's dyed before the fiber is spun. So they have beautiful color changing yarn. That's making tracks. They have two versions of this. So it's a 2-ply. They have a heavy DK, and they also have a making tracks light that is sport weight. Just top-notch yarn. And then they have what they call roots, which is basically making tracks identical, both in their heavy DK and their light, which is the sport. But these are their solid colors. So they created the roots line to pair well with the making tracks for colorwork sweaters. If you're doing, like you have a base color and then you have the color changing yarn that goes with it. Their website is super cool. They, on all their yarns, they'll have suggestions, like multiple suggestions on what might pair well with a roots color, so a solid color, or what might pair well with a making tracks color, the color changing yarn, depending on which one you're kind of drawn to first. Top-notch yarn, all in-house, and then keep an eye out for their one-offs. They're super fun. They have a line called Farm Fresh that's, I think it's kind of always changes, but so great. Love it. And go check out their Millcast with Peg and Amanda. Number 7 is Mitchell Wool in Dryden, Michigan. So Mitchell Wool was started by a mother and son team, Sherry and Luke. They started Mitchell Wool after reading Clara Parks' Vanishing Fleece in 2020, which this is just a woman after my own heart. I don't know if you've never read Clara Parks' Vanishing Fleece and you love wool, you love yarn, you love knitting, go read it. Clara Parks has such a readable writing voice. You'll love it. You can either read it visually or audibly, whichever works for you better. It's not like a visual heavy book. Like there's not like drawings in it or anything like that you'd be missing out on with the audiobook. And if you're going for audio, if you don't want to support Bezos, then go to Libro FM. I know there's Audible out there, but Libro FM, this is just a quick plug for Libro FM. They're an Audible equivalent basically, but they are, you can choose to support your local bookstore or whichever bookstore. So a good deal of the money that goes to buying your audiobook actually goes to your local bookstore. If you've ever had that kind of like, well, I want to listen to this book, but I also want to support locally, Libro FM is your thing. And then you don't have to fund Jeff Bezos doing, honestly, all the ridiculous things he does. So anyway, back to the point. She read Vanishing Fleece and she was like, I gotta do something to change this. And so she started Mitchell Wool with her son. Their tagline ready for it? Their tagline is, for flock's sake, for planet's sake, for community's sake, for family's sake, for the right reasons, long term. I mean, come on. Amazing. They plant dye all their yarn, so it's all botanically dyed, and some of the wool is grown on their own farm, and some of it is sourced locally, and I think they typically try to source locally, but you know, a lot of times if you want to make large quantities of consistent yarn, it has to come from Western farms, typically. But I think most of their yarn is sourced locally. Anyway, it's spun at a mill down the road, apparently. Yeah, again, all sheep to skein in the US. Some popular yarns, I actually found out about Mitchell Wool first because they had a yarn that was specifically a Toonie breed, which I just thought was so cool. I really like the Toonie breed. I won't get into it. They don't have that anymore, but it seems like they have a lot of yarn that is constantly changing depending on which farm they're getting it from. But some of their yarns, Farm Friends DK is a 3-ply woolen spun DK, which is fiber from their flock, which is fun. And then there's also Black Label Erie. They have multiple black labels, and they come with like different locations. And I'm thinking that's based off of where the fiber is coming from. But this one is called Black Label Erie, and it's a 3-ply worsted spun, worsted weight, and it's 100% Shanika wool. Super cool. They actually have a ton of like kind of like notions and swag to go along with it, like bags and stickers that are really fun. All with the same ethos, so check them out. Number 8, Mountain Meadow in Buffalo, Wyoming. So we're coming back to mills. This is a mill that was founded in 2007 by Karen Hostler. The mill was born from a mission to preserve the ranching culture of the Great American West. They, I think Andrea Mowry recently did the DRK Everyday Cardigan in their wool. I think it was the tweed, the one that had like, it was 2 plies with different colors. But that's Mountain Meadow. Most of their yarn is made with what they call mountain merino, and it comes from a mix of Rambouillet, Cormo, Tarhi, Merino, and Columbia breeds. And they kind of blend them and create their own little thing that they call mountain merino. They are the largest full-service mill in the West, so that's really cool. They source everything is grown in Wyoming, so hyper local. And just like Green Mountain Spinnery, they use no chemicals. They use biodegradable soaps and vegetable-based oils to, soaps to scour, oils to run their machines. Just like, man, there's so many top-notch mills and yarn companies in the United States. Like, just take all my money. I don't have much, but take it. So again, they have a wide range of yarns, and honestly, probably a lot of the yarns that you've used are made from Mountain Meadow. So a lot of Farmer's Daughter fibers, I think, are spun at Mountain Meadow. But some of their yarns, one is called Cody. It's a 2-ply sport weight worsted spun. Then the fiber is mountain merino. And then they have, to kind of go with that, is the Cody tweed. It's the same as Cody, but in variegated tonals. So it's kind of like a sister yarn. Okay, number 9. We're getting smaller in these last 2. These are pretty small mills. So number 9 is San Juan Woolworks in the San Juan Islands in Washington. So Sarah and her family run a yarn company focused on climate and community beneficial yarns from the San Juan Islands. So it's sheep to skein all on the San Juan Islands, which is crazy. All of it is botanically dyed, and is just looks so, I want to try it. I want to try it. I haven't tried it, but I want to try it. Some of her, again, you know, because she's a small male, a lot, and they're using, you know, yarn just from the San Juan Islands. A lot of the yarn is going to be one-offs or changing constantly, which is fun. But some of their popular yarns are Haven, which is a 3-ply DK, and that's from their farm's Cheviot flock. And then there's Spy Hop. It's a 3-ply DK, and this wool comes from a breed of sheep that is a cross. So it's a breed of sheep. The yarn isn't a cross. This is from a breed of sheep that is a cross between a Finn and a blue-faced luster. So you get softness and luster of the long staple wool length. So I want to try that one. I want to try that one bad. So that's San Juan Woolworks. Love it. And then number 10, our last one, is Coyote Run in Holly, Michigan. So this one's probably the smallest one out of all of them. Andy and Nicole Foster, a husband-wife team, started Coyote Run in 2021 in their garage after being inspired by a hand spinning class. I believe that it's currently still in their garage, okay? They're small, but they are mighty. They focus on buying fiber from U.S. growers and keeping any synthetics, think nylon, acrylic, polyester, or semi-synthetics, which are bamboo, sea-cell, rayon. You might think of these as natural fibers, but they have to go through such an intense chemical process to become, even though bamboo is something that grows naturally, or, you know, rayon is, I think that's wood pulp. It's wood. Okay, trees grow naturally, right? But they have to go through such an intense process to become a fiber that a lot of times they can be just as harmful as petroleum-based synthetics. So they keep all of that out of their yarns. So I would love to talk about their popular yarns, but it looks like right now they are selling mainly in person, but they recently talked on Instagram about working on getting an online shop set up. So make sure to sign up to their newsletter so you can support them. Guys, that was a lot. That was a lot of yarn, a lot of amazing yarn. And I mean, I didn't even like scratch the surface with this. I want to do way more in-depth dives on these things. If this is something that you are interested in, let me know. But let's not forget our shout out. So our shout out goes out to Farmer's Daughter Fibers in Great Falls, Montana. Farmer's Daughter is probably a name that you have heard. If you've not, no worries. But they're fairly big in the indie yarn industry. Farmer's Daughter was started by Candace in the basement of her house back in 2016. She comes from a mix of rancher and native ancestries, and both of these influence her work pretty greatly. Not all of her yarn is US based, though it is all dyed in Great Falls, but I wanted to give her a little shout out because she has really been incorporating a lot of US sheep to skein yarns in her lineup lately. So I'm gonna talk about some of them. So one of them, Sukapi, it's a Blackfeet word for good, is a single ply fingering weight yarn that is grown in Montana and Wyoming. I believe this is spun in Mountain Meadows. I think most of these are spun at Mountain Meadow, but don't hold me to that. Next, we've got Recollect and Reminisce. So these are sister yarns. One, Recollect uses some black fiber, and so, you know, their dyeing process comes out a little bit different. And then one uses, Reminisce uses only white fiber to dye on, so they can get the colors that they're really known for on that. They're both 2-ply sport weight, Montana and Wyoming Rambouillet wool. Next is Confluence. I believe this is a 2-ply. It's a fingering weight yarn. It's 80-20, so 80% wool, 20% cotton, and it's spun by Green Mountain Spinnery. Since it's made through Green Mountain Spinnery, I assume it's US fiber. Since they get their cotton organically grown in Texas, I assume Green Mountain Spinnery does. I assume that's what they're using to create this. But this is a yarn specific to Farmer's Daughter. So I can't tell you for sure. It wasn't listed on their website, but I would assume that it is. And last but not least is Pishkin. Pishkin is a 2-ply heavy DK Montana and Wyoming Rambouillet yarn. I am currently using this for my next sweater. I have partnered with Farmer's Daughter Fibers for my next sweater, and y'all, it is so good. I cannot wait to show you. I will talk about that more in my next episode, but let me just say that, okay? Okay. Yeah, I have absolutely loved geeking out about all these different yarn companies in the US. I would love to continue geeking out on them with you. If this is something that you guys enjoy, let me know. Let me know, put it in the comments. Let me know if you want to hear more about these, yarn companies, mills in the US. And, if you guys like it, I'll keep it going. Again, please add in some that we've missed. I know there are an endless number of mills, growers, dyers that we have missed. Farms. So put them in the comments. Let me know. Who do you want to celebrate? Who do you want to shout out? Who do you want more people to know about? And then of course, just like if you like this, if you want to hear more, like and subscribe, please. All right. I hope you guys have a good one. See you next time.